My name is Zachmeier, and my second lab project was an HMI and ignition for the large water station project. It was supposed to be an iFix, but iFix is a heaping pile of unusable garbage, so ignition it is. Now, thankfully, the person who had this project before me is a certified genius. It was me, by the way, and so thankfully there weren't many changes that I needed to make to the process itself. In fact, the operation of the project didn't change at all, though it could use a little bit of touch-up in some areas. But I spent all my time trying to get iFix to work, so it's going to have to just stay the same. Now, I'm not going to be going over the operation of the station in detail here. If you want that, I will link my first video in the description for you to go and watch. Now, if you watch that, you'll notice that this project already has an HMI. So why am I making the same HMI in a different software? I can hear you asking to yourself right now. Well, aside from the fact that Ignition is awesome and I really need experience with it for my job, which are both true, Ignition does some things that are really nice for us. First and foremost, I completely ran out of space in my factory talk, and seeing as how it was only designed for a PV1000, which has the dismal resolution of 640 by 480, I mean not even cracking quadruple digits here in either dimension, if I wanted to add anything, which I did, multiple things, I wouldn't be able to, and I'm not able to. And now, while Ignition won't run on a panel view, it will run on a browser. Also, Ignition being newer than Factory Talk by what I can tell approximately 12 decades means it has a lot of really nifty functionalities that make HMI development a breeze. First, scripting with languages like Java, Python, JSON, SQL, HTML, CSS, and more means that the only limit to your HMI is the time left in the semester and the limit of your sleep schedule. The only downside here is the complexity. Some things are certainly easier in Factory Talk, but as far as I can tell, almost never better. It may have taken me a whole day to make a custom slider, but now it's a drag and drop template for me to use wherever I want. Not to mention that with the gateway, from the moment you start a new project, SQL databases and security groups are already all configured and ready to go without the arbitrary 26 security group limit, unlike some other HMIs I can mention. Third, with modern features like templates, custom properties, and UDTs, making graphical windows for all 3,682 of your essentially identical fans has never been easier, and I promise Ignition is not paying me to say any of this. Finally, name one other HMI software that has an equally comprehensive and in-depth training course, free to use, available to everyone. Go ahead. I'll wait. Okay. We get it. So Ignition is new and shiny, it can do some stuff that Factory Talk can't. What's my bottom line here? What are we talking? Well, aside from upgrading to a graphics scheme from this decade as opposed to this century, the HMI is now future-proof. Think of some awesome new thing that you want to add to your HMI? $10 says you can do it in Ignition, and another $10 says it's easier to do in Ignition than in Factory Talk or iFix combined. Want to make a circular slider in Factory Talk? Good luck. Finally, let's say I add a new station to the project. All I have to do are drag a couple of templates into Ignition, put all my relevant data in a UDT or two, slap them together, and go home. No need to manually bind each and every tag. This concept can be expanded to Windows, as you'll see later. Now that my Ignition ad read is over, let's get into the actual project. If you watched my previous video, this layout is very similar to my Factory Talk HMI in some ways, but I really did try to lean into the high-performance HMI style that's all the rage these days and break from my old habit of these bubble boxes to little success in some areas. Looking at the main page here, we are actually looking at 3 pages. We have the sidebar, the overview, and the title page. The title page really just tells you what window you're looking on, and also the time and date if you're like me and can't remember what day it is. It also lets you log out and close the window if you have the proper permissions. The overview page displays each station and shows you which direction the water is flowing, along with some basic process information for each station at a glance. It will also show you if the water level is in a dangerously high or low position, as well if there are any alarms currently active on the station, and you can click on the alarm to take you directly to the alarms page. Now the sidebar here has your system-wide controls, and you can see more or less by clicking this little button here. Now one thing that I really tried to add to this HMI is almost every object, if it does something or tells you something, you can either hover over it and it will highlight to indicate that it can be clicked, or a tooltip will pop up telling you what it does or what it's trying to indicate. I think that just helps usability a ton. Now this sidebar here is where all the magic happens, because if you click any one of the stations, it will open that station's details. Now this is just one window with a couple templates on it that can display any station's information. I do this by passing the window the station's UDTs when the window opens up, which are accessed by the templates to change what is displayed. But it is from here that you can control each station. And just as before, you can change the units by clicking on essentially any units. I really liked this feature before and I made sure to bring it back into this HMI. However, clicking on some of them won't change the units, but will instead bring up a window to let you enter exactly which value you want, as opposed to trying to get it precisely on the slider, and it will go out to 2 decimals. Now this is another singular window that I pass UDT information for it to change what it does dynamically. Another really cool thing about this window is if you open it up and change the units, it's not going to break the system. You can enter the units in Fahrenheit and it will convert them to Celsius for you. Finally, you can go to either the alarms or trending page by pressing the corresponding button. In the alarm page, you can customize which alarms are displayed if you don't want to see acknowledged alarms or cleared alarms. You can also see an alarm history. And to access trending for a station, simply click the trending button on that station's details page. From there, you will be able to zoom in, zoom out, and change your scope of your data you want to look at, as well as change the chart to your liking. As far as the PLC program goes by itself, the only changes I made were I added tags to store the set points in separate units, as opposed to just calculating them and sending them back. This means that if I make another HMI and say iFix, I can access those set points without having to do the math in the HMI. Overall, I'm sad that I ran out of time to work on this HMI. There are so many features and additions that I could add that I can easily see myself working on this project alone for another whole semester. However, all good things must come to an end, and as this semester is coming to a close, my sleeping schedule is reaching its breaking point. Despite that, I think I was really able to explore the possibilities of Ignition and was successful in creating a high-performance HMI style, though even I'll admit it's not the greatest. I certainly made my life 1,000 times easier through the use of templates and UDTs. I think this HMI is more user-friendly than my last one, simply because of the feedback and the tooltips. However, behind the scenes, this project is a complete mess, plagued by lack of planning. I can't blame myself, as I had no idea what a UDT or template was stepping into this project, and they really just eventually became a heaping mess of spaghetti code. I actually have the same information in 2 different UDTs, and to be honest, I don't even remember why. And the amount of work to configure a UDT by hand at this point is almost as hard as just making the graphic from scratch. Like, if I had 100 of these stations, this wouldn't be a very good solution. So if I could change one thing about this project, I'd probably consolidate all of my information into one UDT, so I could be only passing around one tag in the background as opposed to 3 separate tags with overlapping information. In the end, I had an absolute blast working with Ignition, and I highly recommend that you pick it up and play with it if you ever get the chance, as it's by far the best HMI that I've used this semester. Thank you.